plugging in here. One now.
How many professors does it take?
4. And a student assistant.
And in fact,
Next week we read WD-40.
next week is this is, without a doubt, always my favorite lecture because it gives me an opportunity to see someone who has become a friend. And also, it gives us an opportunity to spend some time on the other side of human nature. We usually spend a great deal of the time in studying the Holocaust and genocide, focusing in on the perpetrators and the victimization of people. But today we have a pleasant task ahead of us because we get to encounter a real, live, wonderful hero. I know I'm going to embarrass him. I always do. I enjoy it. Surprisingly enough, you all have had the presence of Hugh Dybee in your life. If you've ever used can you tell what this is? Paperclip holder, a magnet. Well, in addition to rescuing, he travels with one too, just in case I forget. In addition to rescuing quite a few Danes, I'm sure Hugh will, Newt will tell us how many people he was responsible for saving. In addition to that, he's got quite an active mind. Rather than me do a lot of introducing, you all know that I have made my intellectual work the study of the Danish rescue. And it's hard to express to you how much he represents the Danish spirit. Very unassuming, really. But
and also musician Miriam Smart. And her husband Rex, who has a birthday today. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for inviting me. This is still too high. To tell my story. All right. Okay. To tell my story about rescue and resistance in Denmark. I've told my story so many times that I'm turning my hearing aid off because I don't want to hear it again. I was born in 1915 in Jutland, Denmark, the police academy. In 1941, bicycling in my district during the dark nights, the street lights dimmed in policeman's uniform with an FN pistol on my belt. It was far from my mind that I, over 60 years later, would stand here and tell my story. But we who are far over the hill, I'm very, very far over, we owe to society to tell our stories because society must learn from past mistakes. Many survivors of the Holocaust reluctant to tell the stories of starvation, brutality, and inhumanity of Jewish homes from addresses that they had robbed from the synagogue. The very unusual happened. Only 256 Jews out of about 8,000 were found the first day by the Germans. Good folks, absolutely unorganized, had gone into action by word of mouth. They not only warned their Jewish neighbors, but in many cases physically helped them move into their homes or guided them into churches, hospitals, farms, or summer homes. In a couple of Copenhagen, and pressed ourselves up against the wall until the patrol had passed us. In this case, I had my pistol ready, and I would have defended us. But I am happy I didn't have to, as the Germans would very often kill several Danes for every German that had been killed or wounded. Many people helped us with small sums of money to pay for the transport. As the fishing skippers hardly had time to set their nets, and sometimes they were so busy that they had to buy fish from their Swedish colleagues in order not to come back to Denmark with other cats.
Decided, not in my country. Each time he began another rescue mission, he put not only his own life on the line, but the lives of his family and friends as well. Many would have considered the challenge too daunting, but he considered it his duty as a Christian and as a human being. Please direct your attention to the screen for the story of Knud Dybvig.
April 9th, 1940. In a surprise move, Germany invaded Denmark, overpowered its small army, and occupied the country. Like mostly after a law was passed.
One of the truly great rescuers of the Shoah from San Francisco, Mr. Knud Dybvig.
For years and years and years. But so my grandfather told me how to hate the Germans. And I'm sure the same thing happened in many, many other families. And let me excuse myself when I talk about Germany. I'm not talking about Germany today because it's in the United Europe, and we are very friendly. great confidence in the Germans today. But I'm talking about Nazi Germany.
Yes?
I heard a story that the Germans passed a law saying that all the Jews had to wear gold stars, and that in response the king had everyone wear them. Is that true? Or?
I'm so happy to because that is a question that comes in all the time as God's.
Live as they remain. And I think you must have found some Germans that have conversed with you during the occupation, and if not then, certainly since then. Have you not had any positive feedback from such persons?
The question, I think, is, or the inquiry is, whether in fact you encountered any Germans who acted in a positive way. You must have encountered some Germans who...
The most important part of a very, very well-known, a very good German was Mr. Duckwitz, who had been in Denmark for years and years, first as a coffee wholesaler, but later on he became a naval attaché of the Germans in Copenhagen. And he, at one time, he was a very good, and being a printer, I had all the identification, I had all the stamps and everything, so I could make my own name. I wish I could change the date on my birth, but I did, but it didn't work. I still got old.
Nude, yeah. Tell them the story about the fake headquarters.
Tell them the story about the fake headquarters.
About the what?
Fake headquarters.
The
I
German.
don't know. You find out the story. You tell it.
He's here so he can correct me. The Germans were looking for the underground headquarters. You was a policeman, see? So what they did is they set up a fake headquarters. And they took them. Okay. And they took the police and
It happened all over Europe. Kings would...
The paperclip in Norway designated people that were pro-Norwegians.
Yes.
Did you make one or more errors, or your compatriots make one or more errors that you since have a better idea of how to do?
The question is whether there was something that you did that you look back on now as being a mistake or an error, and whether you've thought about it.
The only mistake I did was after the war, starting to make speeches about it. Because I've been busy since 1985 making speeches. So everything I did during the war was fine. It was after the war. I mean, of course, you could always the Danes that we actually had, after the police were arrested, we had less crime than we had when we had the police. People behaved themselves and actually took care of everything without the police department.
Two things I want to point out. First thing is, more Danes died in concentration camps than Danish Jews. The Danish police were sent to Buchenwald and Neuengamme. The second thing I want to point out is that there was a group of Danish Nazis. The Danes were not so uniform that there weren't some people who didn't, quote, join up. But you also have to remember that the Danes and if you studied your maps, the Danes
did not have to do the big shipyard. The Burmeister Wayne was actually spoiled by the saboteurs so that the British and Americans didn't have to do any damage. We could do it ourselves.
Well, you can tell that it was invaded by the
Yeah, there was actually only a part of Denmark, an island of Bornholm in the Baltic, and it was occupied or invaded by Russia. And thanks to a lot of time by the Danes and supported by the British, they
They did make an effort to
deport, they really did.
To deport.
Yes,
Yes.
because
Well,
there was
that's
slavery. Yeah.
I agree with you. I agree with you.
I mean, they weren't just treated from the front.
Right. Nothing. Okay. It's Monday. Let's go get the Jews. I'm sorry. What else?
You said it took you 40 years to talk about it in 1985, but did you share any of it with your family, your children, and your wife?
The question is, you said it took 40 years before you began telling your story, but did you share it with your family before?
not a lot, I don't think.
Just a little bit when I used to live in Europe. I know that my mother and my father didn't speak much about it. And then it was sort of gently, oh, by the way, during the war, but there was never any real storytelling. I never really understood until it came forth in terms of speeches. So I was...
The German Marine would come on board his boat. He would always slice a Danish bacon, a big piece, and give it to him. And he would say, would you like some fresh fish when I come back? So tell your patrol boat and that I'll be back and give me their position. I don't think they ever got any fresh fish.
I won't tell the last story. I'll give you an opportunity to tell one more, but I want to tell a story. In 1993, I went to Denmark. It was the year of the 50th anniversary of the rescue, and I thought that it would be a lovely time to do my research. And I went to the north of Zealand, which is north of Copenhagen, to a small town called Gilleleje, because I wanted to see because many, many, many people were taken across to Sweden. And as I walked towards the harbor, I heard Dixieland. The Danes love Dixieland. And as I was walking, a man handed me a flyer, and I said in my best non-Danish, "Jeg taler ikke dansk," which means I don't speak Danish. And he said, "Oh, you're an American," in English. And he asked me what I was doing there, and I told him about my research. And he said, "Oh, my father was a fisherman." And being the good sociologist I thought I was, I said, "Oh, do you think he would speak to me?" And he went, "Nope." Nope. So I asked him why. He said that too much attention had been focused on the people and not on the event, and that the celebration should not be about them being fishermen, but on the fact
Up at the loft above the church in Gilleleje, and there they were hidden. And of course the Danes, as always, in a small town, you would see them come with blankets and food baskets, and it has to be a very stupid amount of people, Germans, if they couldn't see that something was going on in the church where normally hardly anybody would come. But the people came with their blankets and the food for the refugees, and this ended that they were arrested and sent to Theresienstadt. And there again, the Jews in Theresienstadt, the Danish Jews, none of them were ever sent to Auschwitz when kids were born. And they all, most of them came back.
What about the police who were arrested? Were they protected in some way? The 1900 police who were arrested.
What was the fate of the policemen who were sent to Neuengamme?
Actually, fortunately, they were pretty healthy when they were arrested in 44, in September 44. And, but they still suffered very much, but it was only about 6 or 7 months. So I think about 130 that Satan passed away down there. But most of them came back again pretty sick. But they quite a few saboteurs got killed by the Germans. And they are buried in the park. And where the Queen would come, the Danish Queen would come once a year, and also at Christmas time. And those people are really the heroes of the underground, the resistors, and also saboteurs.
I think we've worn you out. Thank you. Thank you all.
Just this general after lecture chaos, about 2 minutes of that I record every time, so people can see what happened.